Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching a brand new edition of India's World with me, Frank Rausan Pereira. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will join the birth centenary celebration of Bangladesh's founding father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, through video conference, the Foreign Ministry said last week. The Prime Minister had postponed his visit to Dhaka after coronavirus scare had caused Bangladesh to defer public events beginning March 17th. The Foreign Secretary told a delegation of 20 Bangladeshi journalists that the Prime Minister will also send a video message on the occasion. A two-day-long special session of the Parliament of Bangladesh to mark Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's birth centenary will be held from March 22nd. President Abdul Hamid will deliver his speech on March 22nd and Parliament will be prorogued on March 23rd with the passage of a resolution on the colourful political life of Rahman. India had received a formal notification from Bangladesh about public events being deferred because of the detection of coronavirus cases and the larger global public health situation. This was Prime Minister Modi's second foreign visit to be called off because of COVID-19 related concerns. Earlier in March, India had put off his visit to Brussels for the India-EU summit on March 13th. On this edition of India's World, we will analyze the status of ties between India and Bangladesh. Joining me on the program today are Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, former ambassador, Pant, Head Strategic Studies, Observer Research Foundation, and Major General Ashwani Siwach, retired defense and strategic expert. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of India's World. Ambassador, let me begin the program with you. Let's first analyze the status of the bilateral relationship between India and Bangladesh.
Well, I think we've had the best of relations in the past decade or so when Sheikh Hasina has been at the helm of affairs in Bangladesh. And yet today there are some shadows being cast, particularly because of the post-CAA kind of anxieties that have been raised in Bangladesh particularly. There have been some, reverse migrations of Bangladeshis who have been working in India, and they have acknowledged that they were here illegally and working, and I think the Bangladesh media and the BGB also has been pretty transparent about it. The question is that's a reality. There are Bangladeshis working in India. So what do we do about them? After all, the NRC in Assam produced a list in which we decided that 1.2 million of them would be fast-tracked into Indian citizenships, those who are non-Muslims. But we decided that the 7 lakh Muslims who are on the NRC, who did not find a place in the citizenship list, what do we do with them? I mean, this is the question that has always I think dogged various governments, not just this government, as to what to do with the people illegally who are here and are working. People migrate, we know that, and we have had enormous migration since 1947, since the subcontinent was partitioned. So today we are looking at a situation where we need to find solutions to some of these problems, because Bangladesh certainly can't afford lakhs and millions of them who have migrated here to go back to Bangladesh. I think that is something that worries them a lot. They are already burdened with the Rohingya, migrants from Burma, Myanmar. So I think these are some of the worries, and I think although we have assured them that this has no implication for Bangladesh, I don't think they are entirely convinced. And we need to do some heavy lifting, to convince them. So I think apart from that, there doesn't seem to be any other major issue apart from the river water sharing. But today I think the COVID-19 is again casting a shadow. We are closing borders, closing travel, and hopefully, this will be short-lived and we'll go back to normal after some time. So these are some of the issues that are dogging India-Bangladesh relations. But I think I'm optimistic, and I think we will be able to, get over this hump sooner or later.
Okay, all right. Pant, the ambassador has raised some issues and said that this is the biggest sticking point as far as our relationship with Bangladesh is concerned, that of NRC and CAA and related matters. What is the solution to this problem, and how much of an issue is it domestically for Sheikh Hasina?
I think it's a serious issue for her, because she has been invested in managing India and in making sure that the ties, as Ambassador pointed out, to another level. I think we have seen a dramatic transformation in the relations. We have seen a great convergence in the engagement on practically every aspect. I mean, even those which at one point seemed very, very contentious under another regime, we found that Sheikh Hasina made it possible for us to have very honest conversations and move forward movement on many of those issues, whether it's security, even river water. I think that the discussion is much more productive today than it used to be. Economics and trade, the largest strategic convergence, whether you're looking at BIMSTEC, whether you're looking at Bay of Bengal, other traditional and non-traditional security issues. So I think that the arc of the relationship has clearly been very, very positive. The question, I think, is today that something that India's, some aspects of India's domestic laws are causing concern there, and I think for her, for Sheikh Hasina, it's a problem, because domestically, it has always been the case that you could mobilize public opinion using India as a veritable outsider, which is a problem we face in almost all our neighbors. And I think now that certain sections have talked of CA, for example, in a certain with a particular connotation, certain kinds of groups have mobilized against India, which have never been pro-India in any case. But I think they have found this to be to be an opening there to not only push their anti-India agenda, but also target the Prime Minister himself, Indian Prime Minister himself, and thereby targeting Sheikh Hasina. So I think clearly for Sheikh Hasina it will be a very tightrope walk at the moment, because there were questions raised about whether Indian Prime Minister would be welcomed at a time when there's so much contestation going on this issue. So clearly I think in some ways COVID-19 has provided an easier route that Prime Minister can participate from here. But I think as Prime Minister Modi also talked about, I think yesterday when he was doing the COVID-19 conference with the leaders, that the fundamental problem remains that this is we live in a porous neighborhood. And how do you manage that? COVID-19 gives you one inclination of what can happen unless you coordinate your responses. So clearly at some point the region and India and Bangladesh will have to think more creatively about how do you manage the longer term problem, which, as again was pointed out earlier, all governments in India have been trying to grapple with it. Now, whether if you are looking forward, I think it would have been a great opportunity if Prime Minister had gone personally, because in that case he would have been able to explain it personally to the people and to the leadership in Bangladesh as to what CA actually entails and how it has nothing to do with what some Bangladeshis might be thinking about. But clearly, since it has not happened, one hopes that officials between the two sides would be able to continue their conversations with each other on this particular issue. I think there are so many issues at stake, but clearly at this point, you don't want this to become a larger anti-India platform which can sort of mobilize all the elements who are anti-India in Bangladesh and create problems not only for bilateral relations, but also for Prime Minister Hasina herself in Bangladesh.
Absolutely. So, General, that having been said, India's domestic concerns are justified, and that's why we are going ahead with the NRC and the CAA. But, as far as this issue is concerned, how do we balance it out with Bangladesh? I mean, what's the solution to this issue?
Frank, we have to see this way. There is no denying the fact that Sheikh Hasina has been very close to India. And, she has invested heavily on India-Bangladesh relationship. And so whatever opposition was there, she was not bothered about this. She has gone out of way to accommodate the aspirations of India. And therefore, it is India's interest that we make sure that she also is comfortable, because you have to give in that elbow space that she also domestically can say something that she has also got it from India. There are many other issues which were they test the water. Then this thing which has come is Citizen Amendment Act and the NRC. What has happened is the NRC of Assam which took place, which said that there are about 19 lakhs people which are not found to be named in the register, and they are, out of them 12 lakhs are Hindus and 7 lakhs are Muslim. So this is connected with Citizen Amendment Act, thinking that those Hindus will be given some sort of relaxation through Citizen Amendment Act, and it is only this Muslim which will be now try to be taken out of India. Now the problem comes is that all those who have come it is a fact that they have come most probably from Bangladesh only. But how do they go back? There is no way, because it makes the situation for Sheikh Hasina very precarious. You know, they have been claiming time and again that no one has come from Bangladesh. And now if we are trying to convey that these are the people who have come and migrated from Bangladesh, how do we approach? So therefore, this is what is the, you know, the biggest hurdle today. How do we handle this situation? Because it is easy to point out that so many have come in India illegally. But what do you do thereafter? No other country is ready to accept it, and not Bangladesh. And if you keep on pressurizing this point, what happens is that you make the situation of Sheikh Hasina vulnerable in Bangladesh. Now, as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, she is an asset for India. You remember, after she has taken over second time in 2009 onward, the relationship between India and Bangladesh has become very good. In fact, the northeast militancy, which was bugging us for a long time, almost about 50 years, has been sorted out because Bangladesh has cooperated with us. There are no bases in Chittagong Hill Tract which were there of ULFA, Bodo National Front, BLTF and other militant group of Assam. Today they are not there because Sheikh Hasina has made it very clear there will be no northeast militants bases in Bangladesh. So therefore she has been very helpful to us. She has been also very helpful in sorting out land border agreement. So Bangladesh is also been very close to India, and it makes a lot of sense to us that we make her comfortable. As on today, you know, the basic, you can say, the impression going in Bangladesh is that Sheikh Hasina is been too pro-India, and especially what has happened after Delhi riots. And people in Bangladesh are perceiving, they are connecting dots. What they are thinking is that after Citizen Amendment Act, you will have first a national population register, which will now give you data, and thereafter you will have a national-wide NRC, National Register of Citizens, and then, you know, certain people will be sent. So this is now becoming very unpopular in Bangladesh, and after what has happened in Delhi riots, situation has become precarious for Sheikh Hasina, and that's how, you know, it is, in fact, what COVID-19 has happened, to some extent is a blessing in disguise that Modi don't have to go back, because there were a number of people come in the street and they were, you know, strongly anti-India sentiments. So this is what it is today. What we have to make sure is how do we take our relation further from here, because India and Bangladesh relationship are started looking up. And our biggest problem is that China, as it is going very close to Bangladesh. Sure. We were trying to balance it out. They are now going Chittagong Hill. The complete defense, let me tell you, 70 to 80% of imports which of the defense are from China. Sure. And China in a big way is making a Chittagong you know, port also. And therefore, whether it is tanks, whether it is frigate, whether it is missile, whether it is aircraft, everything is Chinese made. Sure. And $12 billion is the business. So, whereas Sheikh Hasina was trying to balance China with India and trying to make sure that Indian investment goes. Now, see that in October 2019 when she has come, she has given us quite a bit. You know, sure. She has given access to us in Chittagong port and Mangla port, that we can able to have our import and export, especially of northeast states. Second thing is she has given us the gas in Tripura. She is ready to compromise and give us more. We should also able to help us so that she becomes strong within our own country. We cannot do anything wherein she is vulnerable.
Okay, all right. That having been said, Ambassador, how do we take the relationship up a notch? What are the areas that we need to concentrate on going forward?
Well, a lot of incremental steps have been taken. I think connectivity is a major step that we have taken to reconnect all the nodes, the railway nodes that we had, you know, pre-47 and pre-65. So I think that is one major factor. But then connectivity also is now, you know, related to better roads, better integrated checkposts along the border. These are facilitation measures that will increase people-to-people contact, though at this time I think more people-to-people contact is not called for because of COVID-19. But for future, yes, once this is all over, I think connectivity is a huge sort of gain. Then all the sort of, then we are talking about water connectivity. I mean, how to send goods for say from, you know, Allahabad, Varanasi, right up to Dhaka. I mean, it's possible, you know, if you dredge the rivers probably. But then water is an issue, lean season, then monsoon season, all these issues come in there, and these are technical issues. A lot of things are there. Then of course the Padma bridge is being built, in which we are a partner in terms of grant aid, etc., which is going to be a game changer in connectivity. We are also building a railway bridge between Akhara and Agartala, which will seamlessly can connect Calcutta to Agartala, I mean through the railway network. So all these things are happening. We are also expanding, you know, they are opening consulates in, for example, Guwahati. Then tourism, for example, is a major source, because I think the largest number of foreigners who come to India are from Bangladesh. And it's evident because we give them so many visas, you know, I think over 1.5 million visas. And some people don't need visas, you know, children below 5 and people below 70 years of age. So I think those are the issues that are bringing the two countries together. Apart from trade, economic investment, we have $8 billion worth of what shall we say, lines of credit and grant element included. So these are some of the things that we have made. China, of course, is there. They are also investing. They also want a foothold there. On the defense side, of course, they have had a foothold for a very long time. Much of the equipment is from China because they sell it at cheap rates. They use it to buy sort of influence in a powerful institutions like the Army, Navy and the Air Force. And Bangladesh military, which was, I think, had after 1971 retained the Pakistani mentality in many ways, because it was only in 2008 that the first General Moin, who took over, was the first Bangladeshi military academy commissioned officer. Previously, all of them had been trained in Pakistan.
Right.
So it is my personal view that many of them retained their, some kind of an anti-Indian mindset, because having been brought up in that culture. So I think that era, of course, is over. But then in that era, what happened was that they wouldn't buy any arms from India or any military equipment. Sure. Nobody buys from a neighboring country because they always fear that suppose there is a conflict, theoretically, that, where would I get spares from? I mean, and if you look at Bangladesh and its geostrategic position, we surround them on all sides. So I think the Bangladesh Army's doctrine to a large extent was directed towards India, that
sure.
How do we defend ourselves against India, because that's the only border that they have.
Absolutely.
So that kind of thing worked in the mindset. Today it's different. I think there is a new generation of army officers and military officers who think differently, but they are tied down to those old equipment. Plus they have bought submarines, for example. China has been happy to give them a couple of submarines, sure. which they are being trained. So I think the question is, China has had a head start in terms of defense equipment. We have offered them a $500 million line of credit for defense equipment. Right. So I think slowly, even that arena, that domain, we can have an understanding. Of course, we do a lot of training, we do a lot of exercises with them. So that way there is no problem.
Right. Okay. Professor, we'll come to China in just a bit, but before that, your thoughts on video conference diplomacy?
Well, I think in this day and age, that's what perhaps will be the order of the day. And we have seen that yesterday with the COVID exercise that Prime Minister did with SAARC leaders, and now that he's planning to join this ceremony this week. I think in some ways, it's the kind of connections we have in the neighborhood. It should be relatively easy for our leaders to engage with each other, frequently by video conferencing in this day and age. That's something that should happen more and more. And in particular with countries like Bangladesh, where I think the issues we deal with them on a day-to-day basis, and there has been a productive, as we have been talking about, a very productive relationship with between the two countries. And I think it's good that Prime Minister has decided to be part of that despite cancelling the visit in person. And I think that will, in some ways, he would be able to share with the Bangladeshi Parliament the warmth that people feel towards Mr. Rahman and his legacy. And the connections, again, he would be able to revive some of the old memories of how those connections have been forged over the years. Because while there was some distancing in between, clearly from the very beginning, the idea was that the two countries would work together. It did not pan out exactly as was envisioned, but we are back on the same track at the moment. So it would be good for him to restate that imperative of Indo-Bangladesh relations, which I think even for the Bangladeshi Prime Minister, she would appreciate, I think, given that the sentiment would come from an Indian Prime Minister.
Sure.
So one would hope that this would be one way to alleviate some of the problems that at the moment surround the relationship. But I see no real problem in terms of the larger trajectory of Indo-Bangladesh relations, in evolving, in maturing. I think we have seen a lot of maturing happening. Yes, there are some temporary problems, as we have already discussed. But given the stakes that the two countries have in each other, and I think also the fact that this is also one relationship that is also driven bottom up. There's so much cultural linkages, so much people-to-people ties that invigorate this relationship.
Sure.
That my sense is that even in the future, despite the strategic challenges that we continue to face, we are increasingly becoming more and more convergent. And while China is a factor, but China is also a factor which is also driving the two countries in some ways together in the Bay of Bengal community, to revive that and to revive how do you look at some of those convergences. So clearly there are issues which need to be sorted out, but I don't see any real major problem in the longer term insofar as the two countries, insofar as the strategic trajectories of the two countries are concerned.
Sure. General, talking about China, what are our options really to counter China's ambitions in Bangladesh?
Frank, you see, first of all, we must understand that as far as China is concerned, it is not only Bangladesh, it is the string of pearls starting from Kuakapu, which is in Myanmar, that from Yunnan they are making a road to Kuakapu, and this is a deep seaport which they are making in the western port of the Rakhine. And thereafter it comes to Chittagong, and then it goes to Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and then Djibouti in Africa, and then go to Gwadar. So this is where they are making the strings of pearls, and they are trying to surround. The point which coming today is that we have to be vigilant on that thing. As far as Kuakapu is concerned, we have already told Myanmar, we are also trying our best so that we invest in Myanmar, and we are also a stakeholder. As far as Bangladesh is concerned, our relationships are improving, and we have already shown the concern to the Bangladesh government, especially when the two submarines were given, and the submarine base is being now operated by the Chinese. We have pointed out that to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is aware of that. And most of the defense equipment is coming from China. Now, another issue is that there is a one defense agreement which is signed between China and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has not signed any defense agreement with any other country other than China. So China is in a big way coming to Bangladesh, there is no doubt about it. The way we should balance out is that we must have our own relationship. There is a sort of a training which takes place regularly every second year or every year, which takes place once in India, once takes place in Bangladesh. It just finished in Umrai Camp, Matri, that from almost about 20 days. This sort of exercise, people to people contact, military to military, you have to have more training, more cooperation. Try to give them weapons also. Now, as on today, 80% of weapons are all coming from China. Reasons are obvious. But then certainly you should also able to give some weapons to them. Try to maintain more relationship. See, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, strategically so well located that in case the way they are giving us the road as well as water connectivity from the rest of India to northeast, the distance becomes 1/3. Now, this is the beauty about it. This is where the Bangladesh can play a major role. So, having good relation with Bangladesh is very beneficial to us.
Sure.
Now recently you will be surprised. There was one exercise which has taken place called Monogram, which was basically UK, United States, and Bangladesh, which have just finished about few days back in Bay of Bengal and Indo-Pacific region. So it's very strange as to why India was not part of it. It needs to go in detail. So as far as Bangladesh is concerned, we must be very much sensitive to their requirement. Now,
Sure.
two requirements of which are there very important. One is Rohingya, and the second thing is Tista water. We should help them out in Rohingya issue, put pressure on Myanmar so that the Rohingyas goes back. If these Rohingyas stays there in Bangladesh, in Cox's Bazar, they are not only a security problem for Bangladesh, they are a big security problem for India as well.
Right. Okay, we'll come back to closing comments and you can wrap it all up for us, General. Let me get closing concluding remarks from all my guests. Please be brief because you've got limited time on the program, starting first with the Ambassador with the best way forward.
I think we've built a very stable relationship with Bangladesh. There will be niggles, there will be hiccups from time to time. But I think the relationship is now strong enough to survive these small sort of niggles or hiccups as we go along into the future. There is no other option but to have good relations, because it is in the interest of both countries, and the people of both countries need this relationship to prosper, to sort of economically grow. I think Bangladesh has shown the way forward by clocking 7+% GDP growth. They have done well. Their HDI indexes are better than us in many ways.
Sure.
So I think some of those things are very positive, and we have to. There will always be an element of a feeling of India being too big, the asymmetry is so large that, and there are anti-Indian elements in Bangladesh.
Right.
One shouldn't dismiss them. Who will take advantage? For example, we've just seen the kind of demonstrations that took place against the visit of Prime Minister Modi.
Sure.
There are Islamists who sing a different tune in that country, and but the problem is that even Sheikh Hasina has to balance them with something, some other factors.
Absolutely.
So there's no point in blaming Sheikh Hasina, because that country is 90% Muslim.
Absolutely.
And so they have their own issues there, including the conservative and the more sort of, I would say, extremist kind of Islamists
Sure.
that operate there.
Okay, all right, Professor.
Well, I think the relationship will grow forward and will have I foresee a very positive trajectory, and as was pointed out, it's imperative for the two nations to work together in more ways than one. I think also the frame that often is used to view Bangladesh needs to change. As again was pointed out, it's a remarkable country which is growing at high rates of growth now, very dynamic economy, very dynamic people. So I think in some ways there is much to learn also from what Bangladesh
Sure.
is trying to do with itself and how it has transformed in the last decade, especially under Sheikh Hasina's leadership. And I think, again, you will always have this issue where India would be seen with suspicion by some quarters.
Absolutely.
But that's something that we have to live with all our neighbors.
Absolutely. All right, and close the show for us with a quick concluding remark, General.
Frank, 2-3 issues where Bangladesh has overtaken everyone, especially China and India also. One is that their export in textile has gone tremendously high. And second thing where they can teach us certain lessons are this Grameen Bank as well as Mobile Bank. This has become an international forum now, that they have done extremely well that. 2-3 concerns which are there as far as Bangladesh is concerned, they have done very well that they have not given any safe sanctuary to any militant group operating northeast, and that's how we could sort out this problem in northeast. But what is happening, ISI through Jamaat-e-Mujahideen, Bangladesh is still having hold. Lot of fake currency is coming through Bangladesh. This is a huge concern to us, and the smuggling is also taking place. So anti-Indian sentiments coming through Bangladesh is a reality. This must be understood. The border, though we are trying to fence it, it is still porous. It
Right.
needs to be more strict. So
Sure.
the relation between India and Bangladesh, government to government, is going very high. People to people have to improve. As far as military between both the countries have to do more training, more cooperation, more coordination in time to come.
Okay, all right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of India's World. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.